Welcome to the first ever episode of the Stronger Than Yesterday podcast. Today we will be discussing how to quit your job and survive. I am not done that, but instead I have two brilliant young minds, Stephen Hunt and Johan David, who have done just that. So join us for the next hour when we discuss how to quit your job and survive. Grab yourself a cuppa, make yourself comfortable, and please join the conversation by sharing your thoughts and ideas below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe because it will really help us out. So the first question that I want to ask...
Oh, feels like time
okay,
travel.
we can laugh a little bit. So what I want to ask is that a lot of people obviously feels very stuck in the now, and they find it hard to pursue their passion or to pursue their dreams because they don't really know what the outcome is going to be. Now both of you are coming from a situation at the moment where you've had a mindset shift change, and where you both are pursuing what you want to be doing. You're pursuing a passion, you are going for your dreams, but not long ago you weren't. So how did you start?
So I think for most people, they do recognise the inherent dissatisfaction in whatever situation they're in. And then it is that process of moving from being dissatisfied to where you go next. So it's important to be honest with yourself, because at times we can feel our emotions and then push them to the side because they're not convenient. If we acknowledge that we are dissatisfied with where we're at, we have to act. You can't not. If you are hungry, you have to go eat food. You can't not. When you put it aside, things get worse, but it gets a bit difficult. I've got bills to pay, I've got to do this, I can't take a leap of faith. So the main thing is to be honest with how you feel, to feel that dissatisfaction and be like, this is telling me something that I'm not happy. Then the next question is, well, if I move forward into this unknown, what's going to happen? We don't know. It's a complete blank void space. Usually the mind then jumps to the worst case scenario every single time, because that's what fear is there for. What is the worst thing that can happen? How can this go wrong? Generally what we see is that if I do take a leap of faith, I might end up in a place where I don't feel happy, I don't feel satisfied, maybe I feel like I've done the wrong thing, maybe something else is going to go wrong. But then if we look to the situation we're already dissatisfied with, we tend to already feel those feelings. We feel unhappy, we feel a bit trapped and stuck, we feel like we've gone down the wrong path and we want something else but we don't know what it is. So then the main thing was recognising that the worst that could happen by taking a leap of faith is the exact same outcome in the exact same situation we're already in. The worst that could happen is you end up in another place in space and time in which you're unhappy and dissatisfied. And once you realise that, it stops being a choice.
Yeah.
Because, well, if I'm unhappy here and I might be unhappy there, this is still a chance. It's a might be unhappy, but there's still that whole potential that it could get better. So it becomes a thing of, well, it can't get worse. It can't really be worse than what I'm feeling now. So let's just go take that leap of faith and...
So you trust in the probability.
Exactly, and that's just specifically to you. That's what got you pursuing what it is that you want to achieve in life.
Yeah, it was that whole, like, if I'm not happy now, when I was thinking about what do I want to do myself, or what if I fail, and what if I let myself down, and what if it doesn't go right, and then you look to the situation you was in, and it was like, well, I'm not fulfilled here, I'm not achieving my potential, so I can't not move forward in something that could give me the possibility of achieving my potential and the possibility of fulfilling me. The general thing is, in the situation you're in, there is no possibility. You are just stuck and that is how you feel. But moving into the unknown, yes, there's a possibility of things being bad again, but there is also the flip side, the possibility of things getting so much better. Yeah. And that is the driving force that went, yeah, okay, we're going to shoot for something better. Because the thing with possibility and potential is it's unwritten and it's uncreated. It is a blank canvas that it will turn out the way that you put yourself onto it. It's not a definite set thing, it's something that you can control and something that you can actually have a say in. And I think a lot of people don't realise that when you jump into this unknown, you think it's going to manifest suddenly based on its own laws, but it's not. It's about what you put into it that will then create and manifest the potential that was already hidden within inside of it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Stephen, because I've known you for a while now, and for a couple of years, and as long as I've known you, you've just kept going. Nothing stopped you at all. Was it always like that for you? You were always pursuing things, or did you have a specific moment where your mindset shifted as well and you started pursuing things?
Yeah, so from a very young age, I've had an obsessive personality when it comes to me achieving certain things. It obviously, as a kid, it starts out as things like skateboarding, mastering that, and then it turns to mastering. It turned to that mastering downhill biking, and then it turned to diving with my dad, getting really competent and mastering that in a sense. And it was driving boats, and it develops from that. You develop this personality from a young age when you have that drive to do something. And I find, or for me, I've just took that into everyday life. And I'm all or nothing. I'm either obsessed and I'm doing it, or I don't even look at it. I have no interest. And that's a problem for me, and it does create a big problem for a lot of people, having that kind of mindset and adopting this mindset. Because with that obsessive that obsessive passion to execute one thing, a lot of other things are neglected. And that's something you got to keep on top of when you adopt something like this, because it's something I fall into that trap. You know me from 17, started PTing, and I adopted that straight away, and that was my new obsession. I started looking into entrepreneurial stuff, trying with different network marketing companies, now going into setting up online PTing, which is actually doing all right. But in the process, I've been homeless twice. Yeah. Lived out of a van for 6 weeks because everything else was neglected. So I think it's keeping on top of the other things as well as having that obsessive nature. But I feel anybody that's done anything, look at Stephen Hawking. The guy has a brain for one thing. Yeah. And that's whatever quantum physics, is that what he does?
Yeah, that's quite.
You know what I'm saying?
Physicist,
physicist, whatever. I don't know. That his brain was designed from day one for that. And he followed that pull. But you can even look at it in a sense, especially from your side, the spiritual side. Has some greater power. It gave him the talent. It gave him the power, the energy, and the gifts of having such an intelligent mind that his physical body has been neglected, not by himself, but by a disease. Because you know what I'm saying.
So he could focus all that.
Yeah. So there was no distractions for the guy. So it was a case of that disease was given to. So you never know. He might have become a sprinter. And he never have revealed the things he revealed. You've got to look at it even to a different level of, it's not just you being obsessive, but when you are, you've got to understand that there's consequences of that along with success.
And is that what kind of got you, your initial mindset about being obsessive about things and being able to take things on and kind of going there is all good and well?
It just
grew.
But
you realised over time that you need to have a balance?
Yeah, in a sense.
Do you feel like you get too obsessive?
I feel like for people listening, it's your call. You've got to make that decision. What do you value most? What do you want most out of life? For me, it was solely achieving certain things. For other people, they might have more interest in, achieving some things well and having family. But the problem is with this life, you can't have everything. You have one thing. If you have everything of one thing, you have nothing of another. If you have a little bit of one thing, you've got room for a little bit of another. There's only a certain amount of things the universe will seem to give us, and it's a trade-off, one or the other, or a little bit of everything. You can be a jack of all trades, master of none.
Yeah.
Or you can be Olympian.
Yeah.
But guess what happens when you're Olympian? You're dieting all the time. You're training all the time. You have no social life.
Everything else is sacrificed.
Everything else is sacrificed. And that plays in every aspect of life. And it's something that's grown on me just having that obsession thing. But that's in my nature. Not everybody has that nature. It's a nature you can work on and focus and just become, lose yourself in one thing. But I think those people that have a pull to family, have a pull to other things, for them to go, right, I'm going to be obsessed with this thing and neglect everything, they're going to feel that the other things deteriorate and it's going to affect them more than it does someone like me. I get in a weird place, a bad place, when I'm not obsessed with one thing. I'm lost. I don't know what to do with myself. But some people it's all about what makes you happy. And I think, people could be looking at this as, looking for answers of what to do with themselves. But my point being is, like I said earlier, once you take that wall down of, money, materials and all, the distractions of life, what would you do? Let's say money wasn't a problem. Let's say transport wasn't a problem. What would you go do? I'm not talking out of hobbies. Obviously, everybody just do anything fun. But I'm saying, if you could do anything, what would you do?
So if transport wasn't an obstacle, or your day job wasn't an obstacle, and you had all these extra time to focus on your passion, to focus on your dream, which is essentially what both of you are doing. What would you do? What are your action steps? Because you are both trying to achieve very different things. So I want you to tell me a little bit about what each of you are trying to achieve. So
okay, what
start with you.
Trying to achieve in our lives at the moment.
Because you have taken that step of not being stuck.
So one of the main things trying to do at the moment is to establish not quite a secure foundation, but a basis to propel myself forward from, because it's been a recent kind of change and shift. It's less about trying to create that final picture here and now. I've got the image and the vision in my head, but it's not about trying to build that image now. It's about putting down that first brick, starting right at the beginning and building from the foundations upwards. So right now I'm trying to achieve a kind of sense of calm around what I'm doing, because one of the big things is that you can panic and you can instantly go back to, but this is an obstacle and that's an obstacle and what about this and what about that. Even after you've made the decision, even after you've taken a leap of faith, those things can still come back. So it's about finding that place in yourself which says, look, this is working. Look at it, how your life is unfolding, and it's trying to root myself into that, to trust the rest of the process as it unfolds. And how you're feeling every day, the fact that you wake up in the morning and you feel like you have the ability to actually do something and pursue your passion. Yeah, that I'm free to go in the direction that I want to go. And you don't feel stuck. No, one of the big things that makes me feel stuck is not my actual situation, but the voice of society in my head that tells me I should be doing something different. And it's still, not every day, but most days, it is a battle against that voice that then tries to pressure me into forcing my process forward. And I don't want my process to be rushed, because I'm trying to create something lasting, not something that's going to go up overnight, but something that will take me through the rest of my life. And I think that's where you and Stephen differ a lot, because this is a recent process for you where you are starting to focus more time and more energy around creating something, around building something, whereas Stephen has for quite a while, a couple of years, already started that process. So he's kind of taken it so far that he just has to keep going in a way. But for you, because it's so recent, talking a couple of months, the past year, because in your mind, obviously you've just freed up your time very recently, but I'm certain it's been quite a while where you've just thought that you have to make that change before you actually made it. It was a good year of knowing that I needed to make that change before I actually went through with the decision. So if you feel like somebody, what would you say to someone that is there right now? They know they have to make that change, but they're not doing it, because if it took a good year for you, what would you have done earlier if you could, or would you still have waited that year?
Did things have to fall into place, or did you just
I
have
think
to
it
make
is.
them fall into place?
I think it is a kind of, for me, it was about waiting for things to be at the right time. Somebody who's in that position where they know they need to make the decision, but they've not quite yet committed to it, I would say to them, don't put pressure on yourself, because one of the things that you can then do is negatively talk to yourself about the new decision, and that's supposed to be your new path and your new passion in life. And you can then beat yourself up about not following it instantly. But there can be things that when you're leaving the old situation that need to be tied up first and that need to come to a close for the next stage to properly begin. There was quite a few times that I kept on wanting to leave, and then I didn't, and then I was kind of glad that I'd stuck around for a little bit longer, because...
When you say leave, you mean your job?
Yeah, to quit the job and just get off on my own. There was little things that kept on not quite getting in the way. I didn't quite believe in myself, but I'm glad that it took longer. I don't think I'd go back and ask myself to quit any earlier than I did, because at the point when I finally did quit, I had enough money saved up to get by for another couple of months. I had the kind of mindset that wanted to pursue something new, whereas when I was initially making the decision that I need to do something different, it was more of a rebellious mindset that was just like, I just want to push away from this. It wasn't about focusing on moving towards something. So if I'd have just rebelled and pushed away, I would have dropped into a void into which I had nowhere to go, and I didn't have the skills or the mindset to then move myself forwards. It was over the following year, after making the first decision I needed to leave, that my mind actually developed in that way. And once the mind had got to that point, because of all my life experience I'd been feeling up to that point, that was the point when I had decided to finally leave. And then I was in the right space, I had the right energy, and I had the right understanding to actually carry me through. Yeah. So someone in that position, I'd say, if it feels that strongly, stop ignoring yourself and follow it. But if it's something where you know that you need to do it, but you're not quite feeling it fully yet, just give yourself time and don't put pressure on yourself, because you could rush into something that is right for you but too soon, and then it's wrong for you because it was too soon.
And I think that's where a lot of people hesitate, and where they stay stuck. They just can't differentiate at what stage they are. They know they want to do something, but it doesn't feel quite right quite yet, so they don't do it. But then they get into that mindset that it's not quite right all the time. So what it sounds like for you, you made a plan. You knew where you had to tie up your loose ends, and you made sure you pursued tying up your loose ends so that you could then put a plan into place and make it happen. Whereas I think a lot of people would get into the habit of saying, oh, not quite yet, I need to let time pass for it to feel right. But then they don't quite figure out what's not right. You figure out your issues, and then you found a way and the time to focus on those, to start something new, rather than just keep on living day to day.
I started putting stuff aside to prepare me for what I knew I was going to do eventually.
So you were taking action already in a way.
Whilst I was still there, I wasn't, before I'd quit the job, I was taking action so that I knew once I'd quit, I could move down the path that I wanted to. So leap of faith tends to be less a full leap of faith and more of a considered move.
So basically, I think that's where what a lot of people would need is knowing that if you want to pursue something, and if you feel stuck, it's not just about jumping into something new. It's about making a conscious choice and taking progressive steps to be able to do that. So you need to kind of have that awareness. You need to figure out why things aren't working right now, and how, if you were to pursue something, you're going to get there.
Yeah, exactly. How to follow the steps. And then for those people that are kind of, because one of the hard things is you do know you want to do something else but not quite sure what it is. And if you don't quite know what you want to do, that can be even more difficult to actually then take a leap of faith, because you're like, well, I'm then going to fall into nothing. One of the things that I did was I got a vision in my head. I could see the end point, and then I put it aside, completely forgot about it. And over the course of the following weeks, months, it popped back into my head. And every time it popped back into my head, that was another reminder that something in me was saying, this is right for you. because I've done it before with different ideas and different projects, and when I put them aside they never came back, but with this one it kept on coming back. And I think that is a way that your body sort of, just an easy way to let yourself go, look, I've got this big vision, this is something I want to do, but I'm not going to stress myself about trying to get there. I'm just going to put it in a box, and if it comes back to me, if it gets brought back up into my mind as another inspiration again, I know it's probably the right one, look at it again, readjust it, put it back in a box, and the more it comes up, the more right it is for you. And towards the end of that year, after I'd made the decision, it was just constantly in my mind. And at that point, I think that's when I knew this isn't going away. I've got to follow this because it's been building and growing inside of you. It's like you plant the seed inside of yourself first, let it grow in you, and then you can bring it out into the world. So I think that's something I'd add.
Thank you for that.
Very welcome, Jamie.
So the same thing kind of applies to you as well, because you didn't make that conscious decision recently like Johnny did to pursue your passion. You've been doing that for a long time, since quite early in your life. But talk us through that process.
Well, I feel it's a very similar one to Johnny's. I feel you say it's recent for Johnny, but you know, from the conversations that I've had, for Johnny's hasn't been recent. I mean, how old are you now, dude?
25.
25. We were talking about a story 10 years ago for Johnny.
Yeah.
Where he first started bringing out his character of where he is now. You know, Johnny's journey's been 10 years long. This isn't a recent thing. This has been 10 years in the making.
That's true.
Yeah, so his passion's always been there, and his dream's always been there. And I think that's what a lot of people can relate to. The thing they really want inside is something that they've always wanted inside, or at least for a really long time. So it's...
But I think if we're talking about a physical project, like obviously Johnny's you know, journey with this, your journey with this, my journey with my online coaching, and you know, bits and bobs like that, I feel it's like building a house. You've got your physical object of the house, and then you've got all the paperwork, the planning, the coordinating with other people, the you know, the working out the maths of the planning, talking to architects and getting everything drafted. I think the conversations you had with different people, you know, but the problem is, like, luckily for me, I bump into people like Johnny, I bump into people like you, and a guy called Rax that I used to work with. And all these conversations are like the paperwork being, I'm talking to the architects, and I'm talking to the builders, and I'm talking to, you know, the finance banks, whatever. You know, all these different people are these, you know, stand as these, you know, things, you know, these people to actually build your house. And then obviously you get all these, the plans, the drawings, the money, the loans together in your own self. And that's your first steps. You know, building a house isn't just getting bricks and just throwing a house up. It's about organising it and feeling ready and making sure everyone's happy. You know, all the different voices in your head are happy and everything's aligned, so that when you start putting actions down and putting actions into play like Johnny's recently done, you know, that's when you start laying your first line of bricks.
And
you know, Johnny's had 10 years of coordinating.
Exactly, he's been coordinating that, but that's that dream manifesting. So he's recently made that change. Whereas for you, you're speaking from a perspective where you were full on pursuing your passion a couple of years ago. So you're speaking from...
Mine came solely from frustration.
Yes. So
mine came solely from frustration of... I was so good at one thing, like certain things, but terrible at everything else. Like I've always just got awesome at one thing, and then everything else just goes out the window, and I suck at it.
So what would be some examples of that related to what you're doing now, for example?
Related to what I'm doing now?
Because you might be really good at one thing and suck at others. How did that one thing...
So I'm not just talking about like as far as work goes. I'm talking about it, you know, in my character. You know, when I was 8, 9, 10 years old, I picked a guitar up, learned how to play it, taught myself to sing, and you know, I've got good. But that was just an obsessive nature that made me do that. But I didn't learn to read or write at school.
Oh.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Oh, okay.
Like, you know, I followed one thing that I felt passionate about, and I've always just been pulled to it and ignored everybody. Again, over my life, it's caused problems, but later down the line, it always pays off. It always shows. And I think there's times where these things the negative things that have happened because you followed your heart at the time, there's consequences, there's trash, there's hell on, but just let it unfold, and then all of a sudden, it's like building a house. Like I said before, you can get all these plans, show it to somebody, and be like, "What are you on about? It's ridiculous. That looks horrible. I don't like the look of that." Then you whack it up at the walk inside, like, "Oh my god, it's actually really nice." People are always going to be skeptical for anything new. Mm-hmm. Anything new, people are going to be like, imagine if you showed an iPhone to somebody 100 years ago, or told the concept of an iPhone 100 years ago. Everybody, the human race, society doesn't like what they can't see. They don't like what's new. They don't like what's, they talk about things like, it's such a weird one, because society seems to support growth, but then as soon as the guy comes along with a new idea, they're like, "Yeah, shut up."
Yeah, and I can completely see what you mean there. So that's something that a lot of people will be able to relate to. Like, you've been going at your own thing for a long time, but another thing that a lot of people struggle with is the support from the people around them.
Yeah, everyone thinks it's ridiculous.
This passion, they'll have this idea, they'll want to grow it, and even if they're not stuck anymore, they've actually taken the step and start to grow the passion, they are pursuing it. That's the next hurdle where they can get stuck, because they have the people around them then that's pushing them back down.
Yeah.
So how do you keep growing and keep finding your passion without that support?
I just look at every single person that tells me it's wrong. Every person I look at, pretty much when a person.
Do you have a lot of those people?
Oh, everywhere I go. Everybody.
Welcome to planet Earth.
Yeah, exactly. Well, welcome to England. England, a place where there's the American dream and people are just open to doing crazy stuff. England's a very, very, not isolated, but introverted and closed-minded nation. I feel. Mm-hmm. I feel like you walk down the street and people don't look at each other.
Yeah.
It's a weird atmosphere. But going back to the, how do you still rise when everybody's closing you?
Yeah.
You just look at them. You just look at the people who are telling you. Half the time they ain't got the shit together. Mm-hmm. They're telling you, it's always people who haven't got the shit together who's trying to tell you how to get your shit together. The person that's telling you, they've probably been working at a job that they're miserable in for 30 years. Mm-hmm. It's like, alright, you've got a nice house, you've got money, but you're miserable. What's the point in being alive if you're miserable? Dude, to me, there's no point. Or there's somebody telling you, talking to you about relationships, and they've been divorced 3 times. It's like, no, these are things I've seen. Yeah. People have commented on my, close people to me, people I've grown up with, commented on my relationship, and they've been divorced twice. The kids have been unhappy because they're living in different countries because they've been divorced. Yeah. And they're giving me advice about my relationship.
And how does that relate to your passion now? Is there a specific?
Yeah. So again, with work, my passion is to help people, coach, create a lifestyle program. I've called it the Hunt for Life Project, because it's all about helping people, bringing people out of the shells, breaking this mindset of, your life is set out. It's not, you can do whatever you want. There's a massive, massive world out there.
Yeah.
And, you go explore it. I haven't quite reached where I want to go yet, but again, later down these videos, you'll see as time progresses, when I say something, when I think about something, I just commit. And it's just that committing. See what happens. Worst comes to it.
Regardless of what people say.
Yeah, but you just look at, just go on YouTube and look at any successful person. Yeah, so for the people that I listen to, The Rock, Joe Rogan, Conor McGregor, Arnold, which one of them says don't do it? Which successful guy says to you don't do it? But everybody is so set on listening to the parents, listening to the family, and people that are miserable and haven't, don't get me wrong, if they've got nice cars, nice houses, but in the grand scheme of it, they're giving up their time. I explained this to you the other day, didn't I? It's almost like blood money. When you kill somebody for money, that money is still negative. That money is still blood money. to me, when you go and work and you're miserable in a job, that money you get is still miserable money. So when you buy assets, especially things you don't need, that is then, it carries a negative stigma with it because it's done negatively. And then everybody, then the mood's negative, and then the life becomes negative, and then they become really sharp. And this is where people develop that attitude of, oh, well, just get a real job, go work for £8 an hour, you know. Do you know what I mean? Like, I just listen to these people, I just think they're stupid. Like, I don't think they're stupid. I think if that's what you want to do, you know, sound, but just stay out of my head.
So that's the whole point. I think it's really great what you are saying. You can just basically think, look at you, what have you done? How can you say this? So you can see that perspective. But
and I don't mean that in an insulting way. No. You know, I'd never say to the person, you know, look at you. How are you telling me? I'm saying it bluntly now, but I'd never just, you know, tell somebody that. I'd just, they can talk at me, but in my head, I'm just going, yeah.
And that's what I mean.
What are you on about?
In your head, you are getting that perspective. I think the main thing that people are struggling with is other people's negative thoughts or the stigma against their vision and their dreams.
But you got to look at it black and white. I look at everything black and white. It's something I'm grieved for, you know, by people who try and lovely people, but very grounded. Being black and white, to me, it's an asset. To everybody else, it's not. To me, being black and white, I mean, it's still like this is this or that is that. You know, the grey area to me don't exist, because I think the grey area is where everybody lives. And how do you stand out from the crowd living in the grey area? How are you know, if you're living in the grey area and everybody's living in the grey area, the 1% are outside of that grey area. You know, the 1% are either black or white. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not a case of listening to these people who live their life in the grey area that, you know, they try and give you advice, but their life isn't sorted. You know, that doesn't just add up.
I really like what you said about how you use that black and white. But have you always thought that? So if someone comes at you and go, hey, what you're doing doesn't seem quite right to me.
When I was a kid, I felt intense frustration when somebody told me that was wrong, especially if it was just their opinion. So, for example, at school, my career sense at school was terrible. I was pretty naughty at school, but that came from home frustrations with my mum. We didn't get on at all. You know, it is what it is. But as time went on, when she moved out, like, I settled down. Don't get me wrong, I was still myself, but I was never a naughty kid. I was just a quiet kid. I just didn't want to be bothered by teachers, and that was because I understood what they were offering. They were offering education. They were talking and giving a lesson. But being dyslexic, I couldn't write things down quick enough. So my way of learning was just sitting there, or even putting my head on the desk and just listening and shutting my eyes and letting my head spin with the information. And that's how I learn. I shut my eyes and I listen. And obviously a teacher just is like, what are you doing, Steve? Get up. You're not sleeping. Do you know what I mean? And
then you don't know how to.
But then I would say to them, I said, no, I'm listening. I can't write down fast enough. But then they'd be like, don't answer back. And that's when I start getting very frustrated as a kid, because, you know, this person is telling me something without taking on board what I'm telling them. It's a one-way thing. And that frustration of, you know, sometimes, like, not everybody's the same. Like, again, that's a black and white fact. You can treat everybody the same and live in that grey area, or you can understand that people are different. And just because one kid learns like one way and another kid learns another, why should I have to write 4 pages in a lesson? Because that kid can.
Because that gave you the perspective that you're able to do other things and, for example, pursue your passion and keep going. And you already know in your head that when people tell you that it's not the right thing to do, they can be wrong. Like, you have experience from childhood that even if somebody says something, you know that they are wrong because it's not applicable to you. So you've grown up then knowing that other people and adults and authorities don't always know what's best for you. So that's probably what's created.
Yes. So when people
in
later down the life outside of school are telling you that this is the right way, it's like, no, maybe you need to shut your eyes and just let yourself swim for a bit.
Yeah, and
it's the same principle as being in school. You know, a teacher can tell you it's right, but you know, I walked away with A and all B's. Everybody thought I was going to fail. My parents thought I was going to fail because I got notes in my planner, I got letters home, I got phone calls home every single week in, week out, because Steve will not do anything at school. Steve's this kid, Steve will just not listen, there's no getting through to Steve. It's like, damn straight, no one's getting through to me. I'm doing what I want to do, and you guys can just do what you want to do, just leave me the fuck alone, you know. Let me do my thing, and then we'll just see who's got the end result. And again, it was the same principle at school. I said, leave me alone. I said to the teachers, just leave me alone, stay away from me. I'm not interrupting the class. Get off my back, and we'll just see at the end of the year. And I walked away with A and all B's.
And then you had that advantage, basically, of something happening when you were younger, where you realised that not everyone knows what's best for you. So you've been able to take that and throughout your life create and keep going, even when other people are trying to stop you or hinder you.
Now the key to that,
you already know that, whereas a lot of other people haven't experienced that growing up.
Yeah,
so
because the key is
that other people might know better than
themselves. Self-belief. No, they can't, because it's self-belief. They've got to believe. If you don't believe that you're just gonna do it, then you're not gonna do it. Again, listen to any of the greats. If you don't have that undying belief, that arrogant belief that you will do that, then you aren't going to do it. It just doesn't happen. You don't create that law of attraction. That belief creates a law of attraction, and it just happens. As long as you're willing to put in the work and you're confident that your way works. Obviously, if you're stupid about it and just convince yourself that this is right and that's wrong, even though you've got to follow what you feel. And when you follow what you feel and follow that with an arrogant belief. Through school, I was called arrogant by teachers because they would just not talk to me. I'd be like, yeah, sure. And obviously, as a kid, you're a bit fiery, and it's not the way to handle it. And I can handle stuff better now. But it was the same principle, an arrogant belief, and it's the same thing today. Don't get me wrong. You fall out with countless amounts of people, but that's because they're all just enforcing their things on me. Like, that's not my problem. I haven't fallen out with you because I'm enforcing my shit on you. You're enforcing it on me, and I don't want to talk to you. And then you gravitate towards people like Johnny, and all my friends that I've got now. You gravitate towards the same people that are the same as you. But so many people follow everybody else, and they get lost in this jungle of madness, this jungle of society of people. But when you just stick to your path, people just start coming into your life, because you'll find there's a select few that are walking the same path as you. You stick true to that path, and people just seem to bob up along the way. Next thing you know, you've got a massive friendship group, a happy friendship group, and everybody else is just miserable. Jamie.
Hello. So, in regards to having people around you and how they think, once you've gone from the initial stage of feeling stuck to moving on and to making the decision to pursue your passion, once you are there, how do you stop yourself from not being stuck again? And how do you keep going? Is there a specific support network that you would need around you? Or what is, now that you are here, what keeps you going every day when you wake up today, for example? How come you're not getting back to your day job and thinking, hey, this is failing?
This comes basically down to the joy of following your passion. That every time you get into it, every time you approach it, you know that day, that's all you've got to do for that day. It just fills you with such a delight that you know that this is the right choice, and there is no way, once you've felt that joy of doing something you actually love, that you're ever going to turn around and go back to your 9 to 5. You will do anything you can to keep yourself there. I think that is the main thing, knowing that you've taken this step and it feels good. That's what we're looking for in life, something that, not just to pursue happiness all the time, but to just pursue a peaceful sense of contentment, a joy, and knowing that you are doing something that you actually want to be doing. So every time you come back to that work and you're pursuing that passion, you feel it inside of you. You can't deny it. You go, this must be the right path. It is also important because you can even whilst you're doing something that you enjoy, you can still meet obstacles and you can still meet challenges. And then you can ask yourself, am I equal to this? Am I capable of overcoming this challenge? And self-doubt can come back to you. One of the things that keeps me going is having a beautiful network of friends like yourself, Jamie, and like Steve, who when I talk to, you will tell me things about myself that I don't even consider. You will tell me that I have things that are worth saying that me just living in my own head, I wouldn't know that it's something that someone else would want to hear. So being able to connect with people who genuinely care about you and can help elucidate your own sense of mind, your own sense of self, so you can see yourself clearly and see that you are doing something that is having a positive effect on yourself and other people, is also something else that will keep you going, because you don't feel like you're wasting your time. You've made this big decision which was very difficult to do, caused a lot of anxiety around it. You finally get into it, and if people are there lifting you up along the way, how can you not feel like you are doing something that is important, is right for you?
I think that right now the initial step would be feeling your passion, finding it, and then pursuing it. But to pursue it, you have to set a plan. So you, for example, set up a plan on how to reach it, when you could quit your job, when you could start pursuing it. So that's the initial step. Have a plan. And then now that you've basically quit your job and you're pursuing what it is that you want to be doing, it's surrounding yourself with a support network, and perhaps carefully picking the friends and people around you that will help enrich you and grow and realize that you're on the right path.
And so remembering why you made the decision in the first place, it can get a bit of a worry about, okay, the plan that I'm building right now isn't bringing in income, so I've still got my bills to pay, I've still got this to do. For me, like I said, I made the plan beforehand, so I've got the money set aside, but that money's finite. It'll last me 2 months max, and then after that I've got to be bringing income into myself. So it's about remembering why you did it in the first place. One of those things is following your passion and following your joy. That is its own reward, to be able to feel that on a daily basis. Secondly, this is maybe more specifically for me, but the reason I'm doing it is not to enrich my own life, it's to enrich other people's lives. And when you can see that actually happening, even if you can't see it happening, you know that's what you want to do. It's pursuing that thing in you which does not want to quit, in which you will give everything, you will be willing to fail to do it. It's it's having that belief in where you're at, and not self-doubt will come, that's fine, but if you have people who can tell you, look, I like what you're doing and I think the world needs it, that makes it all the more easier. Some people might not have that, they might not have a support network, so then it becomes about, well, remember why you made the decision in the first place, because that is what will keep on carrying you through the doubt and all the dark nights that come after that, and all the struggles and all the obstacles. So if you haven't got people there that can outwardly say you're doing a good job, remember why you made that choice.
Remember why you started.
Why you started in the first place, because you can forget that. And sometimes it is also helpful to look back at where you've come from and ask yourself, do you want to go back there? Because you probably don't. And once you look back at the darkness you've come from and you can see a bit of light in front of you, you're going to walk straight towards that light. However hard the road might be, you will walk towards that light because you don't want to go back there. So I think those are my little...
That's so crazy you said that, because as I'm listening to your story right now, what I was seeing is a tunnel on an angle with a light, and there's lights along the way.
Yeah.
And now how I connected that in my head, those lights are people. They're your beacons, the beacons of light that go, all right, okay, I've got to get to this next light.
And that's related
positivity,
to you.
I can see. And then you work to your next light, and then you can see again. The next thing you know, you're out of the tunnel, you're in wherever your goal is.
Want to be.
And is that how your journey has been so far? You basically had those lights along the way that you can identify being a little bit further ahead.
I can even speak now, I know exactly where they are, who they are, and you've got to remember who they are, where they are, and the experience and the feeling, to have faith that as you're walking and times feel empty, times feel dark, times feel really dark, you know, you just like, you're ready, you're done, You're like, right, this is it. I'm I'm sick of this. I'm done with this. But when I hit those points, which frequently I do, like there's always somebody always throws me a bone. Somebody, I don't know what it is, and this is where like conversations with Johnny's coming in. They're almost magical to me, because all my life somebody just throws me a bone somehow. I don't know. It makes no sense.
And that's sort of a window of opportunity where I have to ask, sorry for interrupting you.
You've got to look for the bones.
Exactly, that's what I was going to ask.
You have to look for the bones.
So what I'm saying is that that's where a lot of people's perspective is. They think they can't do something or they can't pursue something because they don't get the opportunities that other people get. But are you saying that those opportunities are there? You just have to focus on them. You have to find them. And it's up to you to find those opportunities. So they will come. There will be lights along the way.
Yeah, I feel.
If you just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, it's always going to be a lonely path. It's always going to be lonely. You know, how many people are ready to commit and make a decision to do something like that? I don't know many people that are on that. So if you're daft enough to think that it's going to be, you know, parties and social life along this journey, then you're really, really mistaken. Look at the statistics again. Look at this clearly, black and white. It's just set in solid stone. How many people, and the viewers, ask yourself, how many people do you know are doing something out of the ordinary? You know, if you know one, you're lucky. If you know two, you know, but chances are a lot of people don't know one. A lot of people don't know one. So if you think that out of all the people you know and you don't know one, that what you're about to do is going to be comfortable and it's going to be supported, then you're mistaken. You've got to go into this understanding. It's long understanding. It's dark at times. Sometimes you're kind of just being followed by your shadow. Put it this way: the universe, or the space, stars everywhere in this galaxy, but there's millions upon millions and billions of miles in between. Now, if you swore, let's say we could fly in a straight line through space, pretty sure at some point you're going to crash into a star because there's so many. But it's so vast that they're all so spread out. So you got to understand that it's dark and it's cold, but as soon as you hit that sun, you're on fire. And you just stick in one line, it's going to be there one way or another eventually. And if you don't make it in your life, you're dead, but life well lived. You've got a purpose, you've built that legacy. You see the concept. It's vast, it's dark, it's cold, just like space, but if you just keep going in one direction, you're bound to crash into something at some point. But the problem is, so many people set off in one direction, go, it's cold, and
move straight back to where it was warm.
Yeah, and then just go straight back to this sun. But you've got to step. It gets cold, it gets darker, you know. But then when you start coming up, it goes way, way, way higher than it's ever been. You know, I know every time I hit a crash and I just go, fucking no, and just keep going, it always comes up that bit higher. But then it always just crashes just as low. And then it comes up a little bit higher and then you just crash again. But at some point it's going to come up high enough, and then that's the goal here. You know, every crash is a little bit better than the last crash.
It's not quite as low down as the one before.
It's 2 steps up, 1 step back. 2 steps up, 1 step down.
Do you not just think that it's building up a bit of resilience? So every single time you crash, if you just keep going, maybe it is just as bad as the first time.
You've got to put your knee pads and helmet on.
Because you've got that resilience, and because you're used to failing in a sense, it's just that bit easier. So you get more momentum behind you, so you do keep going. You know that after that first crash, if you just pick yourself up that one time, after that you know that you won't die, you know that you'll still be here. So basically with you, it seems to be very much keep going no matter what. But to get to that mentality and get that motivation behind you and that passion behind you, you have to fail, because when you do,
if anybody thinks they can go into this,
you're still alive, you will keep going.
If anybody thinks they can go into something, any little conquest that's outside of the norm, if they think they can do that first time round, you need to reassess. If you think you can do it without failing 3, 4, 5 times round, you probably need to still reassess. We're talking, you are going to be sat on your ass crawling through the dirt, but eventually you're just going to find your pond that you can just swim in, you know. It's a grind. And, you know, I'm 3 years into this now, and I am only just starting to string it together now.
Hello.
We're back.
Yes, we are back. Technical issues. So, following on from what Stephen was saying, what are your thoughts?
So, as Steve was saying, that on this kind of road, try not to kid yourself that it's going to be super easy. It can be a struggle. I think my struggle came in the previous 10 years before I started it, when I was getting my mindset right, when I was changing my habits, becoming a bigger, brighter person. As a result, I'm now in a place where, as I'm on this path, it's a lot easier than I expected it to be. Probably not going to be the easiest, there can still be challenges, but it's a lot easier than I expected it to be, because I feel like I've done a lot of the hard work. But one of the big things that was stopping me was this idea, and I think a lot of people get this, they see what they want to do and they expect it to be perfect from the first day. They expect to be able to build this massive, beautiful empire from day one and it to look exactly as they envision it.
Agreed.
And that thought in itself, just the amount of work that might need to go into it, or the expectation of having something so big, can stop people from actually pursuing and moving forward. So one of the big things I had to learn is that it's okay if your first attempt is an absolute shambles, if it looks like a child could have done better. The important thing is to just get in there and put your heart into it and have fun.
Take a step.
Just take the step. Just decide that it's one step is better than no steps. And if it ends up just looking a little bit crap and not quite the bigger vision, it's something you can then learn from, something you can bounce off of and add to the next time you want to take another step forward. But I did just want to add that a lot of people do feel like trying to make the decision, like, I want it to look like this, I want it to be this perfect, and that can stop you. Or you can think, well, what if it's not as good as this person who's done something similar, and what if it's not as good as this other person that's done something similar? It's not about comparison and trying to have this massive ideal. It's about taking the step and putting your unique stamp on whatever you do. And whatever you do with your unique stamp on it is never going to be able to compare to other people. And that's why you do it, because you do that thing that is uniquely yours. So if you're ever considering about taking the step, and in your head you're like, well, I want to be a singer and I want to write an album, but it's not going to sell as much as so-and-so. It's like, well, forget about all of that. Look at the actual fact that it's going to make you happy to sing and make an album, and make that album and let it come out however it does, and don't judge it for that. Let it be created. One of the important things I had to learn was that there are things inside of us that want life, and these are our passions and our projects, our desires, our hobbies. They want to come out into the world and be created. And every time we say no to ourselves, we're saying no to this part of us that wants to be created.
It's important for people to understand that they can pursue this.
Yeah, that they don't have to have it looking like their grandest vision, like their highest want and desire for themselves. It doesn't have to manifest instantly. It's going to come through a series of stages and steps. And some of those aren't going to look pretty, they're not going to be written and spread across history, not everybody's going to know your name for that particular piece of work. But create it anyway, because things in you that want to come out and have life and have expression deserve to have life, and it deserve to be expressed. And every time you say no to it, you're saying no to a part of yourself. And how many people in this world have already said no to you? Don't be another person who continues to say no to you. Be the person that says yes, even if it looks crap, even if it doesn't look amazing, even if it looks a little bit of a shambles. Like I said, even if it looks like a child could have done better, do it anyway, because you need to start somewhere, and that part of you deserves to be expressed.
Do you feel like that's why so many people are unhappy?
Because they
are denying a part of themselves.
Yeah, they are not letting that part of themselves live. It deserves to, and it almost has to. It's almost like a necessity. If it doesn't live, it dies, and if it dies inside of you, and it becomes an illness.
That's part of your soul.
Yeah, that's sort of like then withers because it's not being nourished. It gets nourished by being put into the light. Like a plant, it needs to be seen, it deserves to be seen.
Yeah.
So let it be seen, whatever it is, however small, however crappy, if it's a doodle or a masterpiece, whatever it is, let yourself create it.
So just take a step, no matter what direction. The step's a step, you can always correct the direction later down the line.
Like, for example, I used to paint when I was younger, and I wanted to get back into painting a couple of months ago, maybe a year ago now. Didn't know where to start, so I've chucked all ideas out the window, got some paints, got them on my hands, and I just started finger painting, and I just got my creative flow going. I didn't care about how it was going to look, if anybody was going to see it, because it wasn't about what the piece was going to do or who was going to receive it or how they was going to feel about it. It was about that act of creation and that need and desire to paint something. It didn't matter what I painted or how it looked. It was just the desire to paint, and I was honouring that rather than thinking about the end result. And that completely blew my mind open for a good week or so, and I felt so good just being able to slap some paint on a page without any kind of reason for it.
It's crazy that
just
though,
out of enjoyment.
That's crazy because I do that.
Yeah.
When I first started to paint, first learned to paint, I just drew a line across, and then just built off that, drew another line, and then drew another line. Like, alright, it's a triangle. So then I saw that triangle as something else and created that something else. And then all of a sudden you got a picture. It might not be that good, but then you can take that picture and go, like, I like this part, get a new canvas, copy the parts you like, and then the same again, new canvas. And it's same with life, same with whatever you're doing, whatever your goal, your task, your obsession, your passion. You know, that passion is a line right now.
Yeah.
You know, build off that line.
Add another line.
And redo.
And take bits that you like, leave the bits that you don't.
Assess
from it.
and pick.
Because oftentimes it can be breaking through that fear barrier of just doing it. Of just like, I want to create a picture and I can feel that desire to paint, but I don't know what, so slap a bit of paint here, put a line there, and just let it make itself. And once you can see that there is enjoyment in creating something pretty crappy, something that has no particular purpose, it becomes a lot easier then to want to create something that does have a purpose, because you're then not as scared of making something shit.
But I think being honest with yourself as well, being honest with yourself and understanding what kind of person you are will allow you to go into something like painting far more free. You know, for example, you can say there's the sort of people that genuinely can't be arsed going and getting the paints and sitting down and painting. There's those people that can't be arsed. Everybody's capable, but those can't be asked. And those that are like scared of it not being good enough and feeling like self-doubt because they're not a good painter. I think you've got to understand which one you are. Understand, are you fearful or are you just lazy?
You're just not bothered.
Really look at yourself and then obviously fix that. And I think that's a way to find that flow.
Learning to use your creative.
It's
about
that side
once
of
you are there, you have your belief in yourself that you can do something. How to do step one, where you're making a plan, but you need to execute that plan to be able to start doing what it is that you want to do. You'll have your support network, you'll have your belief that you will do it, but you might be there, you might realize, I don't have all the skills. Did I make a mistake? Shall I stop right here? No, you develop those skills. You have the time, you have the belief, you have the energy, you know what it is that you want to achieve, so you develop those skills regardless of what they are. Painting or not,
singing, whatever it is.
You go in with your fingers.
And you get things done. You just get things done. You return to a mindset which has no expectations about what you're trying to create. You going, I don't want to say go in expecting to fail, you just go in without any kind of judgment based upon it. It's not that what you're going to create is good or bad, because it's not about the outcome of the product, it's about the process of creating, of making, of whether it's a skill or whatever it is. It's about the process and less about the end result.
Because everyone has the will already, everyone has the will to do it. They might not have the belief, but they have the will. So they need the belief to support the will, and then they need basically the action. And that's where
the effort and drive.
The effort and the drive might still fail in terms of skill, but they have to realize that skill is the very last thing you need, because that is the one thing that you can only develop by learning, by taking action and by doing.
By the experience of it.
So you're skilled, it's fine if you're not quite skilled. You just have to start doing. And keep going.
Yeah, and keep going, let it build itself over time. We do live in a society which is very immediate. Like, you have social media, you get a like instantly. You know, you want to buy something off the internet, it's just there. You want to order food, it's just there. You want to talk to someone, you pick up a phone, it's just there. These are things that are conveniences based upon the technology that we've managed to create for ourselves, but it is not the natural flow of life. You can even see this in the kind of kids' cartoons. When I was a kid, every scene in a cartoon was at least 10 to 20 seconds long. And as I got older, into the early 2000s to late 2000s, every scene was 1 second, 2 seconds of information. So even that was speeding up. You was getting all this instant gratification, instant information. It becomes an almost habit that we expect that those things that we want will be here right now. And they're not. That's not the natural flow. That's not the real process of how life works. That's a convenience that we've added onto the world. But when it comes to our creative processes and our natural evolution and growth over our life, that happens in tune with the rest of nature. And that means that it takes time, and it's a different set of time for everyone. Just like some flowers will bloom earlier than others, it is a natural process, and you have to take that element of time into consideration and to be patient with it. And at first you're going to start off, it's not going to go quite right, and that's fine. Don't quit, keep on going, and over time it blossoms, it grows, the roots get deeper, the flower gets taller, and you just grow and shine brighter as a result. It is about patience, and it is about time. That is one of the big, especially in a society where people want it now, you need to remember that time is very important, and you need time for yourself. One of the things I've learned is that you can start practicing a skill, then you get super tired, but if you think this skill is my passion, where I want to go, you try and do it again and again, but you're doing it from a tired mindset and you make yourself worse. So actually what you do need is time, and you might want to get back into it, but give yourself another day of rest, and then the day after that you get back into it, and you're so much better because you've given yourself time to integrate the information.
And to be able to make the biggest impact and put out the
most
effort
of yourself.
Yes.
Yeah, by allowing yourself to rest. Like, time is very important throughout all of this.
I think we have a good understanding of the general mindset that someone would want to achieve. But what is one thing that you would say to somebody that's in the beginning stage where they are still stuck? They now know that they need to make a plan. They know that they need to just trust the process, believe in themselves, surround themselves with people who believe in them, and they know they have to just rise to the challenge, develop skills as they go, but just keep going and keep developing them.
I'd say the one thing I'd say to them, same thing that I'd say to other people, to anyone: you are worth more than society has told you you are. And you know inside how much you are worth, because you know the things that you really want to do. And you don't do them because you think society has some sort of authority over you, some sort of monopoly on what is right and what is good in this world. But society has never been correct on that matter, because what is right and what is good in this world is inside each and every one of us. So it's the thing on the inside that you want to do that is completely and utterly insane to the rest of the world, but makes so much sense to you. That is what you should follow, and that's what you always should follow. It's going to be the biggest, hardest thing you have to do, but once you do it, you're making a commitment to yourself that nobody can ever sever. You will then almost fall in love with the essence of who you are. And after that, you can't be moved, you can't go back, and no one can ever take you off that path again. So as scary as it is, find that bit inside of you that tells you exactly what it wants to be, and honour it, love it, follow it, and you cannot go wrong at all. Not once.
I agree with that. Then to you, Stephen, if you could say one thing to someone who are still at the very beginning stage, who are still looking to pursue their passion, to find a way around it in their head, because you're coming from a little bit further down the path, what would you say?
Just make a decision and be ready for it. No.
Succinct.
Yeah, again, super. I love Johnny's approach, and again, that it'll work for so many people. But an approach, for me, for people like me that you know, maybe a bit more dafter, you know, not quite as
Bless you, man.
I don't know what the word would be, you know, and not quite as
philosophical in a
yeah
way.
yeah no
Because Johnny is quite spiritual in his approach to people and your worldview.
Yeah, I mean I'm finding that side, but deep down I'm still that, you know, just get it done. If you want it, just get it done. Just go get it done. Don't overcomplicate it like I've done in the past. Don't overthink it like I've done in the past. Just make that decision and start walking. You're going to walk into walls. You're going to fall in holes. But at the end of the day, what is life without a journey? What is life sat in the same seat? What is life without getting up and walking to the kitchen for the cake? Yo, you don't get me wrong. You walk into the kitchen for the cake, but you're walking blindfolded, and you're going to walk into a door, you're going to walk into a wall, you're going to fall over your shoe. But at the end of the day, that cake's still there and you're hungry, man. Go eat. Don't just make that decision to get off your ass and go do it. Don't overcomplicate it. Start walking and then learn along the way.
And that's the truth. That's the full truth.
And just have that confidence, you know, you'll get there.
The biggest thing that you need to realise is that you can do this, and if you have that passion, if you have that dream, you don't need that support network around. You don't need someone to cheer you on, but try and find them. Try and find your friends, your tribe, whatever it is that you want to call them, because they will get you through more than you think. I think there's something that we realised through talking to each other for a very long time, is that there's nothing that will help you grow faster than having that ability to bounce thoughts amongst people who are being supportive, and regardless of what you want to do, just you'll grow by sharing. And I think that's something very, very important to realise, that if you want to pursue something, share that dream, talk about it, think about it. You know, you don't have to shout it from the rooftops, but you do have to tell someone, because not only will that hold you accountable, but it will also ensure that if somebody knows what you want and somebody knows how you feel, you telling somebody will give you accountability, but also it will help, like, I wouldn't say the universe, but people will generally help you achieve that. So trust them.
Yeah, we don't exist in isolation. So you need other people there who will give things to you that you might not look at before, especially if they're a friend to you. You're not going to be as defensive about a new perspective or a new opinion or a new idea. And if they care about you, they'll be giving things to you that you actually need and that you might not have got from any other source, that might boost you up to that next level. So it's very important to have those people around that support you and grow with you, and bouncing ideas off of each other. It's like you plant the idea in someone else's head, it grows, and then they come back to you a week later saying, oh, I've just had this awesome idea I think you could use. And that helps you on your life path. So
figure out what it is that you want, make a plan, figure out how you're going to be able to start doing something. If that means you need more time, figure out a way to find more time. You might not be able to quit your job, but you might be able to a couple of months from now, a year from now. So figure out how you're going to get there, and then surround yourself with the people that will support you, and then just try, keep growing, because you'll taken the steps, you know what you want, you create the belief, the arrogant belief in yourself, and you have the people around you that will help lift you up. And then all you have to do is take action, and that action is all to do with skill, but never ever let that skill stop you, because skill is the easiest thing to learn, and you learn by doing.
Again and again and
just
again.
Do it.
Just do it.
Can I add something about the people part?
Yes.
So the people bit, you know, don't go out and hunt. You know, don't hunt for people who are the same. Those people you'll just bump into them. Let it happen, let it flow. You know, don't go out there and put your trust in everybody you can, because you've got this new dream and a new passion. You know, this passion is going to pull people to you. You don't need to go find them. It will pull people to you. a strong passion, but in the wrong hands, can often set you back. And from personal experience, sharing that with the wrong people can only knock your confidence. So just be careful with where you're taking it. Just allow it to do its thing. Keep it inside. Tell your close friends, tell your people, but you'll find that you'll know the people who want to talk about it. You'll know the people who go. You'll see the light in their eyes when they're like, man, that's such a good idea. And you'll see the people that straight away they'll be like, either ignore it, pass it over, or be like, well, yeah, but just go to the toilet and just get out there.
Yeah, I think that's one thing you do recognise the value in sharing your passion and sharing your dream and talking about it, because it will draw people towards you. But like with everything, you have to make that judgment who you're sharing it with, and you will learn you'll learn who will support you. And that's what it all is. It is a learning curve.
And they are the few and far between. But, one volunteer is better than 10 press men, and you're better off with 2 great people than you are with 20 idiots.
Yeah.
True.
So just take that step and take action, and just, if there's anything you can do to change your mindset, if there's something that's stopping you, just think, I'm just learning. I am learning to how to set a plan. I am figuring out how to get going. I'm figuring out what I need to get going, and I'm just going to make the space, create the energy to be able to pursue my passion. And then I'm going to learn the skills that I need when I need them. And that's probably the main commitment that you need to make to yourself, is never stop learning. Just do things and apply yourself to whatever it is that you need. And I think regardless of where your passion is, if it's like in aerodynamics, or if it's in spirituality, or if it's in personal training, it's all just you learning. So no matter how old you are, just
keep on going, keep on at it, start somewhere and don't give up.
Yes. Thank you so much for coming and having this chat. And
thank you as always, Jamie.
I feel very lucky to have 2 brilliant minds right here. And somebody behind the camera. And I look forward to many more chats to come.
Always. Let's
go get some food, I'm starving.
Yeah, let's get some food.